Okay, perfect. So, first question for John is how much information is needed on my assets to start using SymTerra for recording works undertaken?
So from that side of things, thanks for the question. The basic part of it is to go off and keep the basics right. I think one of the challenges we've had from some teams and some projects and some businesses that they don't have a full list of their assets. They don't know what's going on, and they just get overwhelmed by too vast amount of information, too big a problem and stuff. So what we very much focus in on is we just need the basics that the teams on the ground can report against those assets. So whether it's for inspections, condition surveys, even just finding the assets of verifying asset lists. And we've just kind of, for the teams on the ground, we just very simply kind of give them a list of assets. So we just need three basic bits of information. What's the asset number, if you have it? What's the asset discipline or system or zone or however you want to kind of, link it by? And then a brief description of the asset itself. And sometimes that can be an asset nickname. It can be the asset manufacturer, additional information behind it, the old asset number that people might be using instead of the new one that you're moving to or something else. And so this then means that the team on the ground, and as you saw from the mobile demo of the app, is the team on the ground can just very simply find the asset number, find the asset class, select the right one, and provide an update. Asset no longer exists. It was decommissioned. It is now being moved, or it's no longer manufacturer X. It's now manufacturer Y because we replaced the drive motors and some other bits and pieces and stuff. And so that kind of creates a feedback loop into the system. And one of the kind of common asset forms we've got is a very short one of, is the asset still there? What's the condition of the asset, functioning, non-functioning, or used with caution? And then we have a drop a pin, so a location of it as well. And that makes it a feedback loop that then we can feed back into the business. This is the asset list you gave us, 1,800 assets. And of that asset list, then what is the updated location? What's the updated condition of it? Is it still on the system? So we create this feedback loop from the teams on the ground using a very simple, easy to use mobile app to be able to go off and provide an update back to the asset register. And this way, then we're going to get more details, more information behind it. That then means that we can understand the assets better. We got more certainty in the asset. SymTerra has acted as and does act as a engineering electronic asset management system, but we also link in with the bigger systems. So, for instance, Network Rail use Ellipse. So we will take a data feed out of Ellipse. We'll provide it in SymTerra, the teams on the ground go do the work on the railway, and then that thing can be re-imported back into Ellipse as well. So the idea is to go off and start at the very basics, and even if it's just surveying your existing assets and just verifying your asset list, it's a very, very good starting point, and it doesn't have to be war and peace and stuff like. I can go on and on and on about this one, so I'm going to stop and go on to other questions.
No, please go ahead if you've got more to say. That's absolutely fine. Perfect. Okay, so the next question is for Joe, I think. So, Joe, how difficult is it for contractors to get started with SymTerra? How's it been going since you've introduced SymTerra to lanes, and have there been sort of any grumbles at all from the team?
It's one of the easiest startups we've ever done. So Garrett's on here. I might embarrass him here. So Garrett done us an absolutely brilliant onboarding video, which was simple for me to view, and I sent it out to the engineers. The only issues we did have is sometimes people would log in and create their own accounts. But once everyone viewed that video that Garrett done as an onboarding, it was just a simple exercise. One of the easiest rollouts I've ever done. Any new features that come in, we always get a PDF come through, which we can view ourselves. So all that I save myself. So any new starters that we have, we do sort of mini induction when we get them out of depot. We can show them the video that we've got, and we can go through the PDFs for activities and all the features we use. Also external, if it's new things we're using, we can share that back to the Thames for the PDFs to use. So yeah, it's really good.
So have you found it's kind of increased the collaboration between yourselves and Thames when it comes to reporting?
Oh, 100%. I mean, say previously we was using 2 or 3 different systems where we'd have to merge everything onto a Word document. Um, creating a package to send over for the work we done could take hours. Now I can just add a user, and
That's
all
brilliant.
the information's there, and that takes me all off finding an email address and copying and pasting it.
Wow. So massive time reduction for you.
Massive time reduction. So we can have conference calls. I can go through, go in the gallery. I can go through comments, all the pictures. It's just we've only got a small headcount here for office staff of 2. With the amount of data we've got coming in, we've now got SymTerra working for us instead of us doing the work, because the data then just all comes into us and it's all in one place. So
Yeah, amazing. Perfect.
More time to concentrate on other stuff, which is amazing.
Always a relief. So a question, I think probably for Richard, but I think you guys can give it a go if you fancy, from Andrew. He wants to know, has SymTerra become the asset database for Thames, and or does it take information from the main database and update after a job?
So we took the original list from the main database and stuff, and then we started bringing a feedback loop into it. So we typically would dump. We would typically transfer in a gentle fashion back into the other systems and stuff once a quarter. So we do an asset verification side of things. So a lot of the existing larger systems, and this is kind of tied back into Thames' existing systems, and it's a massive organization. So they've got SAP, Oracle, Sage, SAP, Oracle, what kind of the larger kind of systems out there, which are required, which are kind of part of the regulatory kind of requirements within the kind of the environment. And so we have to make sure that we do provide a kind of a feedback into those systems. And we've typically found that a quarterly update back into those systems to provide an updated list in a kind of a centralized location is quite key. Also, all the data is linked as a data pipeline. So we can, as a future kind of updates, that we can go off and do a live update back into those systems and stuff. And so at the moment, it's been quite simple. With a lot of existing systems, you can do a import, export using CSV, Excel files type setup. And that's been seen as being probably the most cost efficient side of things. As we know, some of these assets are, their lifespan is measured in decades in some cases. So the idea of spending a lot of money up front on doing a live real-time updates with the most expensive servers out there and so on doesn't add any value to the business. And I think we've always wanted to focus on what adds value to Thames, and what makes a difference. And so we just kind of make sure that we help them comply with, have the right updates. But I think the day-to-day running, to answer kind of Andrew's question, is that SymTerra has become the central point of contact for asset information within within Richard's team in Thames Water, on the operational sewer side of things. And that's because it's just kind of ease of use, accessibility. It allows Joe and other teams to go off and access what they need to access quickly and easily. A lot of asset management systems very much focus in on a lot of kind of tabulated information and not always putting that much interest or effort into capturing videos and photographs of it. And this is where, when you can just go off and pull up a gallery of an asset and show, here's 300 pictures of the last 20 visits in the last 4 years, you've got a better context and understanding of not just the asset itself, but also the surrounding areas, how was access to it, what else is around that we need to go off and kind of work with and take into consideration when doing kind of future works, whether that's decommissioning or major overhauls, replacements and bits and pieces and stuff like. So I think it's kind of, hopefully we'll start moving more into that kind of thing, that that SymTerra will become a proper fully fledged EAMS system in its entirety and stuff. But we're starting at the basics of a bottom up approach, because that's the bit that we've always seen as being missing from the teams on the ground, and providing real time updates from actual use of assets through to then kind of like having a proper register of everything you've got on the system. Hope that kind of answers Andrew's question.
I believe so, yeah. Perfect, thank you. So a question from Graham for Joe is, how is connectivity for live reporting when in the sewer network?
We don't actually do reports from inside the network, we do it from above ground. So if any photos are taken, maybe we taken on the phone above ground or transferred and then uploaded from above ground. That's that. I've answered your question.
And generally speaking, do you find that sort of field teams get on fine with connectivity when they're on the job, being able to kind of just upload that, not necessarily within the sewer network, but just when they're out in the field and stuff? You've not really encountered too many problems connectivity wise?
No, we've had no real issues with connectivity. All the photos come through good quality, and yeah, no issues.
Amazing.
We,
And
we
another
do we
question
do
for
have
yourself. Oh, sorry, go on,
yeah.
John.
Just kind of add to that, we do have offline mode as well. Like so, when even in central London, you sometimes don't have a very good signal. So we do have kind of offline modes that you don't need internet connectivity, bits and pieces, and you can have drafts of bits and pieces as well stored. So sometimes the teams want to
Perfect.
start the initial part of the report, save the draft, back pocket, crack on with the work. The idea is to not distract the teams by you must have connectivity, you must have this, that, and the other. It detracts from delivering the work safely, I think, like on the ground and stuff.
Yeah.
Like so that's kind of where I suppose we've made sure that we reduce the frustration for Joe's teams by not creating barriers to doing their work and stuff. Like.
Perfect. Thank you, John. And another question for yourself, Joe, from Sally is one of the slides mentioned contractor benefits. What would you recommend to other contractors with this solution?
So the contractor benefits for us, which was massive, was we do obviously a lot of compliance-based entries and we do site-specific method statements. So you can end up going out with a pile of paper like that. So by using the forms on SymTerra, so you've got 2 or 3 people on site. Them forms are so easy to use. You can put them in drafts. You can carry on. You can do repeat selections for your gas monitoring for anything you're using. Which can then come back as a live report. So basically, Sally, yourself, you can see what people are doing. Instead of the night crew finishes, the night crew goes home with that paperwork. The Thames Water want an update from the contractor, but Joe doesn't start back until 10 o'clock tonight. So that paper, that forms is on your dashboard. You can download it, or if Thames Water have got access to your folders, they can just view everything you've done. Especially with Sally, you understand with the entry numbers that we do. If, for instance, there's an issue at one end where you call out, that number doesn't go through, you can go onto SymTerra and download that report and get that number to shut that job down. So you understand what I mean with that. So yeah, it's the admin side of it again, from paper going to digital, where you're not relying on waiting for someone to wake up that night and either send you a photocopy, which you might not be able to see or read properly, or to drive it down the yard and drop it off. It's all there for you waiting at 4 o'clock in the morning just to download and send, or they would get access to it.
Perfect. And sort of from your point of view, as a contractor, say that there was a contractor that was working with SymTerra, but it wasn't necessarily kind of linked and in collaboration with the water company as well. Do you think, from your point of view, it'd still be beneficial for the contractor to use SymTerra even without the water company kind of introducing it to them?
Oh, 100%. I mean, data's key. So, anybody that wants data, I've got a director that wants everything. Please can I have that now? You've got it straight at hand, and you literally can go on your phone and you can send an email like that.
Amazing.
So instead of having to take that, take it, photocopy it, try and send it over, it's that simple of a push of a button.
Perfect. And then this one might be one for you, John. Robert wants to know, what's the data storage requirements? All the photos and videos, I'm assuming, will take up a lot of space. Oh, you're just on mute, John.
Sometimes that's a better answer. You can just imagine I've got a beautiful answer for you, Robert. So I was kind of starting. We're not an old company. We're a new kind of company. So what we've done is we've leveraged the best of technology. We got very lucky. We got supported by Google for startup side of things here in London, and so we kind of ended up in the Google bucket space and side of things. And we identified that the core part for our business was to make sure that we don't rely on third parties. We don't rely on lots of extra processing. So all of we've built our software in-house. We've got our in-house team. Everything is processed, managed, stored in the UK and stuff, like for critical national infrastructure work side of things. But it also means that every time you press save on SymTerra on a photograph or video, it goes straight into the servers here. And that means then our costs are significantly reduced. There's very little kind of cost out of things. And we've optimized our system around enabling our clients to have unlimited amounts of data, photographs and videos and stuff. Because we know that if we limit communication, we limit the capturing of data that's valuable to a business. And I think one of the stats that we've seen in the built world is, I think it's something like 97% of data goes unused, and there's only 3% you actually use, but we don't know what 3% we're using. And so what we need to do is make sure that everything is available to our client when they need it, where they need it and stuff. And so we've kind of very much built in asset store or data storage into a core part of our business, the photographs, the videos, the raw data, to make sure that that is unlimited to our clients and doesn't hinder them in any way, shape, or form. So we've worked very closely with our partners, Google, to optimize databases, data sets, to make sure that we have got optimizes further. So what we've seen in past systems and past products that we've used in roles is that the data set gets so big, you then click update and you're waiting for a spinning wheel of death to slowly get around. You have to go make a cup of tea or take a meeting and come back, and then there's the update. We want to make it as quick as a Google search on a system. So Google searches the entire internet. You can find anything, anywhere. We want to be that quick. We want our users to be able to just quickly type in asset 355 and boom, there's every single update, every permit, every photograph, every video, every single thing up there straight away. And we've always taken, I suppose this is where we come from the industry, is we want to be able to have this live dashboard on a screen in the meeting. And as we're talking through it, as we want to look at, show me everything that Joe and his team were working on last week, boom, there it is. Show me all the photographs from this particular asset to this kind of area. If we want to talk with a local council around traffic management works in an area, or there's an upcoming major event, then this is kind of where you've got that rapid stuff coming through. What we have always focused on is that we're in a meeting, we're trying to use information, we've got Joe and Richard and all the right people in the room. We don't want to be the system holding them up, waiting for something to update, and then something crashes, and then people just give up on it and they go back to using WhatsApp. This is why WhatsApp has done so well, is that it's faster. And that's kind of where we've kind of very much kind of focus our performance on around that side of things to build as quick as possible, I think. So yeah, I think the data storage requirements basically is unlimited, which is scary sounding, given like, you know, when we saw the stats from Joe's team about, was it 40 something thousand photographs and stuff, like it's a vast volume of information that's being captured, but the value that's been added to the business, to the product, to Thames' system is invaluable and stuff like. So hope that kind of answers it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yes, they do take up a lot of space. Just see the rest of it. Yeah. There's a lot of space being taken up, but you know, storage specs and bits and pieces coming down. So we are seeing that the cost to us is negligible in every kind of way and stuff like. So it's not an issue for us.
Perfect. Thank you, John. And then we've got a question for Richard, but I'll ask you, John, and see if you're able to cover it in his absence. So what was step one for actually getting SymTerra implemented at Thames Water? Who were the kind of key people to get involved?
I think I suppose the key people from our side and ours is a software product, it is the IT department. It is those guys to come on board to understand what is the problem from Richard's team. So it's kind of like understanding what's the issues, what the problems are that they wish to solve. Do they have anything in their own system to go off and provide that as a solution to them? So you don't need them to work with another provider. And then if there is a gap, what is that gap? And then how would SymTerra go off and do it? So it is IT people kind of on the call. You know, you're looking at a vast, you know, estate of different software, different providers, different kind of capabilities. And what you don't want to do is have too much overlap, too many systems doing the same thing, and then just getting confused and lacking bits and pieces. So it was a very much engagement with the IT department and with the business development team, the architect side of things, security, and making sure that everything kind of worked well on that side. That's kind of outside of Richard's team, because Richard's team then are very much kind of the core part of it, in the terms of they're the ones who are needing help with something. They're looking for a solution, and it's down for the IT department to support operations in providing that. But you do have two teams. One is experts in operations, and the other is experts in IT, and they have to kind of work together. Like, okay, what have we got? How can we work together? I think the teams work really well on that side of things, and brought together kind of a better understanding as to, okay, we've got a few gaps in our existing stuff. This is what we need to fill, and we're then assessing SymTerra and other systems as part of that assessment, and then what is the benefit to the business? Because at the end of the day, it has to be to the benefit of Thames. I think from our side, it was that data pipeline, it was the data ownership side of things. We don't lock information in our system, so the information goes across to Thames. They can use it. It's available to them in anything from SharePoint up to data sets and stuff available to their teams to go off and use and stuff. So it was a long journey, I think, as Richard kind of said when he was on the call earlier. There is a lot to do. The larger the organization, the more complex it is, and especially with a company that's, been in operation for some form or another for over 200 years, it's a lot of stuff to go on, to kind of, moving parts to kind of get right and stuff like. So, there's a lot of people to get on board to provide briefings, presentations, to bring up speed as to what we do, what Richard's challenges are, and then how we can kind of work collaboratively together to go off and bring that together.
Perfect. Thanks, John. And overall, sort of from step one of kind of Thames approaching SymTerra to it now being kind of business as usual for Thames, how long did that process take overall, would you say?
I'm always going to say it's too long, obviously. I'm an impatient person. I think it's kind of take into account like the size of the organization, the length of time it's been in existence, bits and pieces, and all the rest of it. Like, it took shorter than I'd expected. Similar size organizations take longer in some ways. I think the focus for Thames on delivery and bits and pieces has been a fantastic help to us. I think that focus has been great, that actually it's what's good, what's best for business has been the most important thing, what's best for kind of delivering kind of a service. So that's been quite beneficial to us, and that's helped move things on. Whereas in other companies, if the focus is not on the core deliverables and the core deliverables within the business, then that becomes quite difficult then to get systems adopted and so on and so forth, like and stuff. So I would say, I think it was like 3 maybe to 6 months, I think tops. I think we had initial pilots and bits and pieces starting it off, beneficial use, and then kind of going into full rollout and commissioning of it and stuff. So we had a process to follow. I think what you can't do is push a system out without it being tested and verified to the entire of the organization across the entire network, and everything falls over. It's a reputational damage to us as well. That if things are not adopted, if it's not understood, if it's not fit for purpose, let's be honest. And so that's kind of where we started working initially with Richard's team, small groups, and then moving on into kind of the contractors like Joe and bits and pieces, when we had something that we knew was working and was providing benefit to the business. And then it was the next stage of rollout from there.
Perfect, thank you. And from your perspective, John, what's kind of your vision for SymTerra and Thames? Kind of what do you see it being kind of 5 years down the line? Are you planning on, I know you said that you're looking at continuing development and things like that. So are you looking into kind of expanding it to be able to report on other areas of a business, like pollutions, for example? Or
yeah, I think we've got within that side of things, we're starting to build a large data set of information across the assets across 110,000 kilometers of sewer network. And we're providing quite a lot of insights into bits and pieces and stuff. And that information, we're hoping to kind of move forward into data analytics a lot more, and providing insights into information, providing predictive tool sets to Thames Water within their asset side of things, helping them generate business cases for asset improvements, being able to spot trends that are happening within information. So for instance, within traffic management, good and bad practice side of things, within assets, which ones are having, for instance, ladders replacement side of things for access into the network and other bits and pieces. How can we do that safely? How can we improve on things? Which assets are doing well? Which ones aren't? Which areas, parts of catchments are having more issues? Using information like what Joe's team is doing as well, and to go off and provide, I suppose, a better, safer environment for Thames's team to work, better planning, and be able to go off and optimize their business around kind of service delivery and so on. So I think it's the analytics and the data side of things That's a big part of it. And then kind of moving into other areas, IoT devices integration, where we can take data from assets themselves, SCADA systems, and so on, and then provide that then into SymTerra to link in that I can click on an asset and not just see the updates from SymTerra, but also see the updates from the system, temperature controls, pressures, RPM, spindle speeds, etc., and bits and pieces and stuff like that. So providing even more insights into what's kind of going on across the network, as well as kind of integrating further with other systems that are important within their business and stuff. So I think it's got a lot of potential going forward to add even further value to Thames Water to reduce operational costs, provide a higher operational percentage and bits and pieces of their assets across the network and stuff like. So yeah, we're seeing some very interesting use cases starting to come up and evolve as we're kind of going on and working in that area.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you so much. And then there was a final question for Richard, similar to Joe's question, but how has it been received by Richard's team on the ground? Obviously, Richard isn't here, but I don't know if you've had much feedback from the Thames teams themselves, John, on how it's been received.
I'm obviously going to say fantastic things, but I think, Joe, do you want to cover that one from your teams and stuff as well?
From my teams, yeah, it's again, it used to be that they'd have to do a email and attach photos, which sometimes wasn't the simplest thing to do, and maybe if they couldn't send X amount of photos, they'd have to send multiple emails. With the way it's done now is because SymTerra is available to all on site, they can all do a separate report. So it takes the pressure off one person, putting it all together in the thing. So majority of my teams are teams of 3 and teams of 5. So they can split the workload between them, sending the data now instead of just one person sitting there trying to do it on a phone and attach it. So yeah, overall very happy.
Yeah.
And I get all the good pictures back and the good notes, and all I do is download it and take the credit.
Amazing, perfect.
Yeah, I think Richard's team said they were using it for professional development side of things. So different members of the team were doing the reports themselves, and that was then helping develop them and their career going forward as well. So they weren't just doing one job; they were able to go off and do the report for the day by themselves, and being able to go off and use that then as evidence and as part of their professional development side of things. So that's quite useful for the guys who are looking to go off and develop themselves further, that they can all jump in and do it. It's not just stuck with only one person, because the app is only linked to one person's name and you can't add another user. I think Joe could have said about taking time to add people. It's quite quick and easy to go off and do that and stuff. So that professional development has been kind of a weird one for us, I suppose, that we've never kind of expected that, but it is seeing that people are using that then as part of evidence of going, look, I've done the following inspections, this is what I was in charge of, I was making sure that traffic management set in place, I did my safety observations, my tours, my bits and pieces and stuff like. So that part of evidencing your own CPD has been a kind of a surprise to us that people are kind of doing that way. But it's actually quite beneficial for the teams that as people progress in their careers and they want to evidence that and supporting it, and that's where they've kind of been using that and giving Joe better pictures then, because they don't want to have it being reviewed with crap pictures. So.
Yeah. Amazing. Perfect. Okay, well, I think that brings us kind of towards the end of the session. So thank you both again for the hard work you put into today and for being here and the great answers to the various questions. We hope that the audience has found it engaging and interesting.